My name is Hunter Swift, like I was introduced, and just to give you a little bit of background, I did come from Southern California. I flew in on a red eye, so I'm a little tired. Got in about 8 o'clock this morning. The other thing is this is the first time I've ever grown out this beard. I'm 35 years old, and I'm doing it for prostate awareness, so it's not because of the red eye that I didn't shave. But let me just start by giving you a little bit of background about me. Like I said, I've been with DealerSocket 9 years, and my first job out of high school was selling cars. Worked at a Chrysler, Plymouth, Jeep, Eagle, and Dodge store. And that's kind of where I got all of my experience in life. It's helped me interact with people, it's helped me sell, it's helped me be successful, it's helped me learn how to work hard and bell to bell. And I was fortunate to start with DealerSocket 9 years ago in a support role. Dealers would call me to learn how to use the tool, and from there I went to consulting, to install, to selling, to business analyst, to manager of market development, and now director of sales development. And in a nutshell, what I do is I help dealers incorporate CRM technology to increase traffic, sell more cars, hold more gross, all the things that has to do with CRM. I help dealers every day. My goal today is to talk about some of the processes that you can change and implement within your CRM. And a lot of it has to do with just how we even look at CRM. The first CRMs that came out were really just an internet lead management tool. Dealers were having to create a website because they were told that they were the last industry that didn't have a website. They started submitting leads, and they needed a place for those to go. And then as that started to develop, people said, well, hey, we need to manage have something to manage our phone ups and our showroom traffic. And still to this day, a lot of dealers are using their CRM to really manage customers. So they're managing these leads, they're managing these customers, and not that it's wrong, but a little tune-up is how we look at it. And some of the most successful dealerships across the country are looking at CRM now a little different. They're really capitalizing on the word relationship, customer relationship management. It's all about helping dealers develop and manage the relationship of their customers. It's about creating the ideal customer experience for them. For most consumers, this is probably apart from a home, this is probably the most expensive thing that they'll ever buy. And for most people, car dealers are right up there with lawyers and crooks, right? So we're in a hard industry. And so if you look at it this way, we're changing that we're not the used car salesman who's just trying to wheel and deal and try to take advantage of their customers. And by using the technology to develop the relationship, what I mean by that is understanding who your customers are, about really caring for them, trying to make this ideal customer experience, make it as quickly as possible, as painless as possible. Little things like if I tell somebody that I'm going to call them, that the CRM prompts a call on that day so that I can keep that relationship. So that's some of the things that we're going to be talking today. All kind of revolves around this relationship. And our goal is really to create this customer for life. So they come in as a prospect, they end up buying a car, we want to service them, but we want to continue this life cycle. And so what we have here, it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but we believe in this marketing approach, and then we go through this road to sell, and then we get them into service, and then it's important that we keep those customers happy, that they can continue to go through this life cycle. So when we talk about CRM, one of the things that I often ask dealers is, do you know your customers? If I asked you who are your best customers at your dealership, would you be able to quickly tell me those people? If you were able to pull up a list of, let's say, every single person who spent over $100,000 during their life at your store, would you know who those people are? And if you had access to this data, would you do something with it? If you had, for example, the list of people that have spent over $100,000 at your store, if you had a list like that, what's something that you might do with that list? What do you guys think? Yeah, anything, right? You're my great customer. Hey, here's a free oil change. Here's $5 off your next car. Whatever, okay? It's because right now we know more about customers than we've ever had before. We know about every call, every time they send an email, every time they send a text, every lead. We know what they've looked at, even vehicles that they haven't bought. We know their service history, their average service RO, estimated mileage, trade equity. We also know bank programs, manufacturer incentives. We have all this data, right? We even know how the customer wants to be communicated with. Are we using this data to interact with our customer to actually form and manage that relationship? I'm sure we have friends that they don't like to be called on the phone. They like to be texted, right? And sometimes they'll say, hey, look, text me. And when we call them, it disrupts the relationship because it's like we don't care or we don't listen to them. Well, we have all this information here, so it's important that we're using this big data, right? We hear this data, but really not just as a number or quantitative thing, but really about developing that relationship and understanding who your customers are. So with this data, you have access to this. Is your marketing and your follow-up catered to this? So that example I gave you of the $100,000 at your dealership, catering a message directly to them, by name, saying, hey, you have spent over $100,000 at your store, very specific, versus saying, hey, thank you, you're one of our most valuable customers, but not having specific information in there, like maybe they don't even know how much money they've spent at their store. The other thing with this data is your marketing aimed at the 20% in the market or the 80% that's not. Okay, when you really think about this, dealers have always been into this like spray and pray thing. They do, a bulk email to 10,000 people and just hope that there's somebody in the market that responds to it. If we understand the data and we actually send, correct information in regards to our marketing and how we plan things, it allows us to put these processes in place to know and understand your customers. Okay, and when you think about it kind of cut it off here because of my resolution, but it says, who are the best customers? And, we can see here that a repeat customer, it's easy to close, it's high gross, high CSI, and we don't have to spend that much. But right now we're spending a lot of money in, in the fresh up to get them on like newspaper and, internet, but they have a low closing rate and you don't get a lot of CSI. And so every time I've been to one of these sessions, a lot of the talks, the speakers, it's all about driving traffic, it's about website traffic, it's about leads. We're spending $20 up to $50 per lead, and you don't even have exclusivity on those leads. That lead's going to 3 or 4 dealers, right? And you have this huge database within your CRM that we went over all those things that we know about your customers, where instead now we can kind of farm it or kind of mine specific people, and we can segment your data into groups that we feel that we can send the right message at the right time. And it's really the right message at the right person, to the right person at the right time. And DealerSocket has this motto. Our VP of Sales, he went to Hawaii, and he saw this thing on one of the dealerships in Hawaii, and he ended up adopting it for DealerSocket. And I think this can apply to a lot of your guys' business, and it really embraces these 3 things right here. And it's called Kina Ole. It says, doing the right thing in the right way at the right time in the right place to the right person for the right reason with the right feeling the first time. Raise your hand if you feel like that's something that you'd like to have in your dealership, right? So in order to do this, in order to make sure that we're sending the right message, we have to make sure that we've segmented our data so that we're sending the right message to the right person. And that we're not just doing it, hey, I want to try to sell a car, so I'm going to send out 10,000 emails, because I think if instead of sending 2,000, if I increase it to 10,000, I'm going to increase my opportunity to sell by 5%. It's incorrect. We talked about who your best customers are. It's really about segmenting that data and sending that relevant information to your customers. Now we're going to go into some of the processes that kind of need to change. The first thing is about what a lot of dealers are maybe doing currently or have done, and it's these prospect campaigns that enrolls every single prospect. And when I mention a prospect, it's a customer who's either called, submitted a lead, or walked in but hasn't bought. Okay? Almost every dealership has some type of follow-up where they enroll that customer in, and there maybe is a call, an email, a letter, or something that happens with it. And the purpose of almost every prospect campaign that I've seen is to sell them a car. And in my opinion, it's not the correct purpose. What we should do, instead of having one campaign for all of your prospects, you have these source and status-driven campaigns, meaning, it was cut off here, having an internet campaign, a phone campaign, and a walk-in campaign, right? We have these different statuses, right? Contacted, visit, demo, write-up, and sold. These campaigns have to really be designed at advancing the customer to the next step. For example, how many leads come in, they have no phone numbers on it, they just have an email address, they want pricing, we email it to them, and we don't hear anything back from them. So we email them again, and we never get anything from it, and after 7 days, 14 days or so, we move it to lost and it's done with. Well, my opinion is that the reason that we often don't get a lot of return on that is because we're trying to sell the car instead of trying to get in contact with them. And so there has to be this call to action like, hey, I just sent you some information on this vehicle. I just got a brand new one in. No one's ever seen it with this option on it. Can you give me a call? Or, hey, I just saved $1,000 off this car. Can you give me a call right now? I think I can get you these call to actions that allow you to try to get the person on the phone. Now, once you get them on the phone, now you can answer their questions, and it changes. We're not selling them the car, we're selling the appointment and for them to come in. Okay, this is a huge, it seems very simple, but almost every dealership that I go in, they're still using this old process. So, and these process should go out 120 days at least, because you have somebody that maybe he's maybe 18 months into a 24-month lease, he's 6 months out, he doesn't know what he wants, he sees a commercial or he sees one at the auto show, he submits a lead because he wants some information on it, it goes to you, you call him up right away, but he's not even in the market, so he doesn't answer your calls, he doesn't respond to your emails, and then when it's time for him to buy, if there hasn't been that contact, then he'll probably go to somebody else. So make sure that you have these campaigns out a good distance, especially on internet leads that you're just trying to get in contact. Okay. The next process that I want to talk about is appointment process. If you took the phone and internet leads, 80% of the leads that are coming from, 80% of your leads are coming from the phone and the internet. Would you guys agree with that? So 80% of your success at your dealership is dependent on appointments. Okay, would you guys agree with that? If somebody submits a lead or calls, we're not trying to sell them a car, we're trying to set the appointment to get them to come in. And what happens a lot of times is dealerships, they lose this focus again, they're trying to sell a car and they're not using this, they're not doing this correctly. And when you are looking at some of the reports, there's some things that you need to look at. We always look at how many appointments we've set for the day, like if you have a BDC department. Are we looking at how many are being confirmed? Who's confirming it? Is it the person, the BDC rep or the salesperson who set the appointment? Or do you have a manager confirm and introduce themselves? Often when you have this, the customer comes in and they're at the desk, the customer is interacting with the salesperson the whole time, then the salesperson leaves the desk, goes talk to the manager, and the customer is like, well, who are you talking to, right? And then when they finally talk to the manager, it's usually at the very end of the process, they're mad, and they're finally getting introduced to this person, and it's like on a conflict. If the manager can call and introduce himself and say, hey, look, I'm just calling to confirm your appointment, how is the sales rep, did he answer all your questions, we're going to have a higher close rate on the scheduled appointments, so something to look for. Now, not only are we looking at what we're created, we want to make sure that we're setting stuff for the future. Because if we have, let's say somebody set 3 appointments on a Wednesday, 2 appointments on a Thursday, and it's Friday, and I don't got any appointments during the week for the weekend, we have an issue. So make sure that we're looking to make sure that we have those. Everybody I know looks at how many calls were made. Are you directly relating that to how many appointments they're able to get based off those calls? Because a lot of times we'll say, well, a certain BDC rep set 4 appointments today. That's great. But if they made 200 calls to get those 4, and I have another person that made 50 calls, we want to make sure that we can look at that and see, hey, is this a training issue that we have to deal with? Is this a process where we have to get the manager involved? And then we also look at emails that are being sent, out. And we look at things like open rate, but do you ever look at the replies? How many, I have salespeople that are sending out templates all the time. Are you measuring how many replies that I'm getting? Because you have to have that call to action, right? And if you're not getting email back, if you're not getting call back, you have to change the wording. And a lot of times when I'll get to email, when we're talking about this call to action in an email, a lot of dealers send pretty much a copy of your website in an email form. It's got your banner, it's got every single button that's on your website, it's on your thing. And we're hoping that they just click on something. Okay? But if you simplify it and you have that one call to action, like, hey, here's check my inventory, or hey, call me, you'll see more interactions. The next process that I want to talk to you about is internet process with leads. There has to be some type of routing, especially if you have a store that's bigger than just one person. When a lead comes in from a lead provider and it goes into your CRM, hopefully it's checking right away to see if this is a brand new customer or not. And if it's not, then we don't want to be creating duplicates. We want to make sure that the sales and internet, the showroom and the internet, are using the same tool. I don't know if any of you use two tools and maybe had an issue where you're actually competing at your dealership between departments and you're just losing gross, right? So making sure that you have a good routing system, but also some advanced routing rules of round robining the team, through the team equally, or round robining through the team by schedule, making sure that it's only going to a person who's working. I know people who have had leads, they sat there, they were off the next day, and next it's 2-3 days before they're getting that lead, and it's affecting the dealership. They're spending all this money on the leads and marketing, and it's just sitting there because we didn't have a good schedule. Also, in regards to some advanced routing things and I'll go into some response times later, but your dealership should have an idea of what you want to be in regards to response time. And 5 minutes before that, we should start having these steps in place where if we don't have anybody responding to these leads, that it's either notifying a manager, it's reassigning it to somebody else. There's got to be these steps in place. And also, there should be some type of, I guess some dealers call it like a lost reactivation campaign. A lot of these salespeople, they get the lead, they've tried a couple times, and they don't get anybody, and they move it to lost. We mentioned that they could still be in the market, to making sure that somebody's, like a manager, is reviewing those leads, making sure that they're not just being moved to lost because they weren't able to get a hold of them after 3 times. And then making sure that it's easy to track the response time by your reps. So a lot of times we have all these steps in place where if a lead comes in and it round robins to another person, and this person never has a lead over 20 minutes because we always keep changing. Sometimes it's best just to let them kind of fail and say, hey, look, you're actually taking 50 minutes or 60 minutes to respond to the lead, and then you can use that as a coaching opportunity. So just some things to think about when you're routing the leads. And also something to think about, if you have like a make, let's say Mercedes, and you sell AMG products, if you have like one person that's really into performance and AMG, why not route the leads to him? Or if you're a Chevy dealer or a Toyota dealer and you have a truck lead come in, you can actually route the leads by, by model so that they can answer all of their questions. So those are just some options that some dealers do. Now, I alluded to some response times. We kind of have a standards of 30 minutes or less. But just making sure that in your CRM that you have some type of tool where you're measuring response time. And then also something that I like is the adjusted versus non-adjusted. Like GM, for example, has a 24-hour clock, but most stores are only open a certain amount of time. Making sure that you can see, well, what's my average response time versus store hours, and also look at things like, well, when am I receiving my after-hour leads? Because a lot of times people will have, let's say the store closes at 9, but I'm getting a majority of my leads between 10 and 11. Well, maybe I should have somebody in the internet department handling those leads for at least an hour or two to make sure that we improve that response time instead of having them sit until 8 o'clock in the morning when the salesperson comes in. Does it matter, response time? I took some data here. This was 6 months worth of data. It was 123 domestic dealers, which was Ford and Chevy, which is red, 127 Toyota dealerships, which is green, and 125 luxury dealers, that's in purple. And as you can see, the people that respond the quickest have the highest closing rate. And this 0 to 5 minutes is a real response. It's not an auto reply. Okay, and I'll go into some steps on how to improve that. The reason why this is so high is usually when you initiate that response, you're the first person. Usually they always have questions, like, oh, does it seat 6 or 7 or 8? What's the gas mileage? They have all these questions with that first person that they talk to. And then after, they might get calls from other dealerships, and then it's all about price. But if a question comes up like, oh, well, does this have airbags or whatever, who do you think they're going to call? They always go back to that first person to answer all the questions. And so if you can be the first one, you're going to have a high close rate. But it's just interesting to see that there is a difference between the makes. So going to the internet process, we talked about it, is really making sure that you have one tool for sales and internet. Just makes sense. Another thing that's important is a smart reply. Going to the autoresponder or even some of the templates, if somebody submits a lead on a Toyota Tundra, does the stock image that you have on your auto reply, is it a Tundra or is it a Camry, right? Something really, little, but it's very easy in a lot of the tools to set up a thing where if somebody, submits information on an Outback, it sends them information, and it sends a base as well as the premium. So the customer is getting information right when they submit a lead. They're getting more information. They can see there's a price difference between these vehicles even before I come in and I like the fully loaded one, but realize I can only afford the base one. So just some things to look at. We talked about that relationship that you have with your customer and respecting them. If your tool allows it, it's really important to allow the customer to choose how they want to be communicated with. This is a thing that we have in the bottom of our emails. Instead of just opt out or spam, this window actually opens up and they can actually update their contact information, and then they can decide newsletter, parts and accessories, purchase follow-ups, service reminders, special offers, and say, you know what, I just bought a car, I don't want to receive anything on a new car, so I can actually opt out, as well as choose which method that I interact with. So these are just things about that relationship, about kind of respecting that. There's no, the easy way to piss off a customer is to send a special offer right after they bought a car. It always affects CSI, but just something that I think is important. And then the next process that I want to talk to you about is email process. Hopefully you guys are still using email. Email is not dead. It's still one of the most cost-productive, efficient forms of marketing that we have. We talked a little bit about not sending a full copy of your website. But usually when I ask dealers about their success in regards to email marketing, how do you measure the success of an email campaign? Response? One of the things that people look at is open rate sometimes. Do you know what's the #1 determinant if somebody opens an email or not? Subject line. Okay? We forget this. We spend all this money designing these really nice templates, and we could be giving away a car, but if we don't have a good subject line, they never click on it. Okay? So some things that we can do is kind of get personal and say, hey Bob, here's your price quote, or hey, this is a message from ABC Nissan, so that they know or expect the message that's coming from it. And then just kind of interesting is we've all clicked on emails that were spam, but for some reason we clicked on it. Go through your inbox and look at the emails that you clicked on and why you clicked on it, because a lot of it you can apply to your dealership. The other thing is having a consistent format. Most dealerships spend all this money, with branding and image. Is the information that the salesperson's sending out either a template or from a bulk email, does it match your website? Does it match your branding? Making sure that the emails are coded correctly, that they're optimized for mobile. And then again, I can't emphasize this enough, you have to have a call to action. It can't just be selling a car or, hey, I hope you click something on our website. Also, an important thing that's with technology that's really helped a lot of dealers is YouTube integration. Dealers for a long time have been sending out videos. We had a great presentation on videos from Kyle. One of the things that we've learned that instead of just having a link, but actually having a thumbnail where you actually get a preview of what you see. Here's that guy from Dirty Jobs. I see there's an expectation of what I'm going to click on before I click on it. Just having that is we're seeing a huge click-through rate on videos. And then also using e-brochures where you can send the customer these like a vehicle landing page where it has all the information that they need. Again, if we can give the customer all the information that they want, there's no reason for them to go anywhere else. And now we're going to go to phone process. I'm kind of going through a lot of stuff here, so there's a lot of different people, different roles, and so I want to make sure I at least try to get something for each of you. Phone process. So I asked this question, are phone ups as valuable as internet leads at your store? We say that, but where are we spending all the money? Okay, where are we? I'll actually go into this on this one. This is why. When an internet lead comes in, we only have the information that they supply us, which is usually email and phone number and maybe the vehicle that they're interested in, maybe trade. From a call, we now have a recording. We know click-through rate, like what they clicked on in order to get to that number. We know where they came from. We even know geographically where they were calling from. We have all this data when somebody calls in. We have to have something in place to make sure that we're managing our phone ups as well as we have with the internet, right? We have response time reports. We have all this stuff that we're looking at. Make sure that there's some emphasis on the phone ups because we have all this data again, going back with relationship. But one of the things that's missing a lot of times is this. What's more important, an inbound call or an outbound call? Raise your hand if you think an inbound call is more important. Okay. What about an outbound call? Okay. Which one do we usually record at the dealership? What? Inbound. Okay. But that's kind of like a hot lead, right? The guy comes in, hey, a lot of times the deficiency is the outbound call. It's are we saying the right thing to make sure that we're asking for the appointment, that we're trying to get them in. Because there's usually not a lot of focus. We just want to make sure that they made the call, but we're not listening to the call. We're not making sure what they're saying to get those customers back in. This is the other thing. Do we ask for the appointment when we get a hold of a customer on the phone? Raise your hand if you think your dealership's really good at this. Okay, so I love data. So here's a statistic that I did. 2-month period, over 1.9 million calls, 346 dealerships. Okay, so this is a good sample size here. Okay, 39% of the phone calls were stranded. Most of the 39% were calling for a specific person. Out of the 61% of the calls that did get to talk to someone, I cut it off. Only 6% of the calls included an attempt to set an appointment. Okay, so we recorded the calls, we listened to it, we had somebody review it. 6%. So here's a huge area just with call track, having a call script, tracking it, recording it, listening to it, making sure that that's happening. Now, in regards to those abandoned calls, it's really important that we have some type of safety net. Some dealerships have a thing where if it rings to a person and they don't answer it, then it rings like everybody's, or there's like a loud ringer that somebody has to get, or even sending it to a call center, right? I'm not saying that you have to outsource all your calls, but if no one at your dealership calls or answers that call, there should be at one point versus just being abandoned, that it goes to somebody. Even if it's just one call a month, we don't want to lose that one customer. And a lot of the call centers you can pay, by the calls that you use. And so, you can look at that as an option. And then it was cut off, but make sure we ask for the appointment. In regards to the walk-in process, I was at a Brian Pash event, Automotive Boot Camp in Philadelphia a couple months ago. Keith Shutterly, he always talks about CRM. He said that only 25% to 35% of fresh ups are being captured. Okay? Now, when I heard that, my first question was why? Okay? Well, is it because the salespeople are negligent, they just don't want to do it? Is it because they're lazy? Well, I hope that it's not these two. It might be difficult if it's the CRM, if it's not an easy process, but for the most part, in my opinion, I think it's either they just forgot, not that they forgot to put them in, but a lot of times like I meet somebody and you get their name and then it's like, oh shoot, I forgot their name, and I'm on the demo, I'm doing all these things, I'm like, I don't want to ask for their name because then it sounds like I wasn't listening. When they come in and they do the credit app, then I'll see, but then they don't come in, and then what happens? I don't get the name, and I'm like, oh, I hope I gave him my business card, I hope he calls me. It doesn't get put in the system, it doesn't get put into the campaigns. And sometimes we get busy. I remember who it is, but then all of a sudden I'm on my way to the CRM, I get another up, and next thing you know, we just get busy, right? So it's not, bad salespeople. It's just human nature, right? We get busy. There's some problems. And so one of the solutions that a lot of CRMs have incorporated is the use of mobile CRM. And it allows us to capture ups more efficiently. And I did another case study, 6 dealerships, 6 months, 3 months without a mobile CRM, and 3 months with a mobile CRM. I saw a 33% increase in fresh ups, okay? Because I get your name. What's your name? Oh, hey, Melissa. Hey, thanks for looking at this car. I pull up my phone. Hey, I have this great video that I just saw on, sobkyle.com. I'd like to send it to you. What's your email address? Okay, I send it to you. So not only am I capturing more information and capturing the ups, but I'm actually getting more information. I'm getting more cell phones and more email addresses because they don't feel that they're behind a screen being put into a system. Okay? Now, if your CRM doesn't have a mobile CRM, there's still ways around it. Just carry a pad of paper and a pen and have them write down that name before they do anything else. Okay? So just something important. So it's a great thing. In regards to mobile, a professional salesperson really now is a salesperson 24 hours a day. With the use of mobile, a mobile CRM, I can be at the bank and somebody sees that, oh, you work at a Chevy dealership? Oh, I'm interested. Hey, perfect. Okay, I logged in up at the bank. Okay, it's my day off. I get a to-do for a happy birthday call to call somebody. Okay, but I'm off. I come in the next day and I see this call. I can't call, it's late, right? But if I'm a 24-hour salesperson, that call comes on my day off and I say, well, it's my day off, but I want to make sure that I develop this relationship. I'm going to call them, wish them happy birthday. Okay, so just something there. Also with mobile, you have the ability to scan trades as you're on the lot. You haven't even come into the CRM. I've already upped the customer. I've already scanned their vehicle. So now the sales manager can see that there's a new trade coming in, and now he can start looking for customers that were looking for that vehicle that we didn't have, and turn one deal into 2 deals. So just a cool thing. The next thing is, if a customer comes in looking for a used car that you don't have, what do you guys do? What? We try to find it, right? A lot of tools have like a wish list where you can mark it, and if that vehicle comes in by inventory or trade, it notifies the sales rep. But for the most part, the biggest problem with this is we let the customer leave. Now we talk about relationship. Think about this as a service. Guy comes in looking for a car we don't have, say, hey, you know what? Sit next to me and let me help you try to find that customer, or a vehicle. And I search my database for anybody that I sold that vehicle to 3 to 4 years ago. I have all the service history, and I start calling and saying, hey, are you interested in selling your car? I'm going to give you more. I got a buyer. You come in, I'll give you a free car wash or an oil change. He comes in, hopefully we sell him the car, and then, hopefully we sell it. He has to go home in a car. So just some things to think about. Again, targeting the right person at the right time. These are just some of these campaigns that not every store is using. And think of these things of, if I can segment my data in a certain way, how can I send the right message to the right person? Think about what you're sending out. Why are you doing it? What's the purpose? Any of you guys send out a 2-year anniversary purchase email? Honestly, I don't know the purpose of that, but if you word it right, it's been 2 years, it's been 2 years, just a reminder of your annual registration, approximately, our record suggests, your services due. What I'm doing is giving them a bill to continue driving that car, and then at the bottom I say, new vehicle, 0 down. This is a great 2-year anniversary campaign now. We talk about CRM, it's great, it's only great if people are using it. So accountability. There has to be something in place where at the end of the day, the salesperson gives something to a manager and say, hey, this is what I did. Here's a report that we use, and it tells you how many ups they use, how many appointments, how many phone calls, what they've done. And a good manager will not only look at this, and we can actually track to see how many calls they actually made versus just marking it in the tool like we know salespeople love to do. But we can also turn this into a goal setting and a coaching opportunity. Allowing the manager to say, hey, look, you're doing a great job getting those people that visit into a demo, but you're not getting any write-ups, so I want you to turn that person, or I want you to get a manager involved. Are we looking at this data? Are we integrating the sales and service department? When you sell somebody a car and you're doing the walk around, you do the book, are you introducing them to your website, saying, hey, you can set a service appointment here? Let's set your first service appointment right now. Are you doing that? Is the system notifying the sales rep when that customer comes in? You walk over and they say, hey, how are you doing? Well, you remembered who I am? Great opportunity to ask for referral. You know, how many people have you sold but they haven't come in for service? Are we marketing to those? And then a big one is, if you have somebody coming in for service that day, being able to look at maybe their equity or try to figure out if you can get them into a new vehicle. Because if they're spending $500, $600 out of their pocket and I can turn that into a new vehicle. And a lot of service directors say, I don't know if I want to lose my best customer. Well, we're not. We're just going to take that vehicle, we're going to sell it to somebody else, and they're going to have to deal with it. But I got another guy that's always loyal, and now he's going to be, so I just turned it into two. And then if you email me, at the end of my slide I have my email. We talk about all this data. It's only good as if you have these like dyno numbers, right, of what you can compare with. So here again, here's my sample size, and I was able to look at, this is a floor, some key metrics. This is internet, and it kind of tells you where you want to be. This is phone, and then total in-store, closing ratios, as well as front and gross, back gross. So email me that you want it. Yep, I'm trying to go through it as quickly as I can. So I got 2 more slides. So this data I think is important because we talk about all these actions, and if you don't know where your store is at, you can't compare if you need to improve anything. So I'll give you this just to have. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is CRM in general. Right? I get asked all the time because I sell CRM. They say, well, how do I know if I need a new CRM? Right? Or how do I know if my CRM is any good, or if I'm using the right tool? And I'm not here to sell DealerSocket, but I want dealers to be successful, and my dealers, they have to hold me accountable for this as well. So this is why I'm showing this to you. A CRM should be increasing appointments and appointment show rates. Okay? We talked about it. We have these steps in place, right? Confirming appointment, the status driven, we're trying to get them into the store versus selling. We should be seeing an increase in B-backs, right? Every customer that comes in, if we sold, that's great, but we know a majority of the customers come in and leave. What are you doing to get those customers back in? That's all revolves around CRM, okay? So if B-backs aren't coming up, we're not doing a good job on the CRM, so we might need to twerk some campaigns. We should be seeing a quicker response time, right? If you have a mobile app and the lead goes to your mobile, I can respond right from my mobile phone. There shouldn't be a reason 5–10 minutes tops on those. There should be a cohesion between the dealership, and that's sales internet as well as sales and service. Okay? Everybody's got to be on the same page. We got to start looking at your lead providers and being able to track which are your best lead providers. Now, I'm not here saying get rid of lead providers. They're still a great source of leads, right? I don't think we'll ever get away from not using leads, but we need to hold our lead providers accountable to making sure that what we're spending money on, that we're getting a good return on. Okay? And we can't do that just with one store, because or one lead provider, say, hey, this one's only giving a 5%. We have to compare it to different vendors, and we also have to take a step back and say, well, we can't just look at, AutoTrader and Cars.com. Well, what's the response time? How quick, if my Cars.com response time is 10 minutes, but my AutoTrader is an hour, well, of course my AutoTrader leads are going to be worse than that, right? Who are my leads going to, right? We have to look at all of that information before we say, hey, I'm just stopping, I'm canceling this vendor, okay? So make sure we look at that. It really should create these opportunities where you just come in, you log in, and there's these things that say, hey, there's a customer that I can sell a car to. Hey, there's this customer that's in a position that is in an equity position, or hey, this person hasn't been in for service. It should be prompting you with these opportunities all the time. And with that, every customer should be enrolled in some type of marketing campaign. Even if you worked with somebody and they said, nope, you know what, I bought elsewhere, well, I can still service that car. I can still sell them a vehicle to a household member or a future car. They've got to be enrolled in some campaign. Now, it's not going to be a call, email every other day, but it's some campaign. And so pull up a list of your customers, your prospects, and see how many customers are not enrolled into a campaign, and enroll those people into a campaign, even if it's just a once a quarter call or an email. Okay? And then it should enable processes. We come in here, we learn these great processes, right? The person before had these great ideas, right? Terry at Reed Lowler had these great ideas. The tool can't always do everything that everybody wants, but it should help and assist that. So he got text message, he still has the ability to enable that process. The tool doesn't impede him from developing that process at his dealership. Okay? So if you have this great idea, but you can't do it because of the CRM, either change the process or change the tool. Okay? And the last one here is just support. The CRM success is really about support. Okay? And this goes from top down. Managers, general managers, dealers have to be on board with the value of CRM, that they have to use it. Okay? They have to be making their calls. They have to be putting their ups in. Okay? If upper management's not involved, managers won't do it, salespeople won't do it, and you're spending lots of money. We're never going to get rid of it because it's got all this data, but you're going to keep switching different CRMs because you don't have that top-end buy-in. Okay? The other thing is the support. You have to have a responsible vendor that says, look, it's our job that you learn the tool. Okay? So we do this through on-site training, we do this through conference calls, we do this through quarterly visits. Whatever we need to do, the vendor can't just sell you a product and then back away. Okay? They have to be there to support. And when I sell CRM, who should be better at customer relationship than us that sell CRM? My goal for dealers is to help create the ideal customer experience when I sell you a CRM. I know that it's expensive. I know it's hard. And my goal is to help that process as easy as possible. So the same thing that I'm teaching you guys, you guys are doing to the consumers. And it makes it very rewarding because not only am I helping you guys sell more cars and hold more gross, but we're helping the consumer. We're helping speed up the process. We're helping them allow to choose their payment and improve CSI and create this whole thing. CRM is an important part, and I'm glad that all of you guys at least have the interest to attend here. So with that, I will, it's cut my screen off, but I'll open up to any questions you guys have. Was there anything of value? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So here's my there's my contact information. But please email me and I'll send you the presentation. Feel free to call, tweet, whatever you want. People who know me know that I can be reached at any time, and I'm always willing to help dealers. My goal is to help you guys be successful. So thank you very much.